Welcome to this training video on Rapid Recon PRO Workflows. There are a lot of tools and features available with your Rapid Recon Pro subscription, but the workflow that shows everyone where the used cars are currently at in the recon process is the foundation for everything else. I'm going to explain the workflows in your Rapid Recon Pro system and how each step of your recon process is set, used, and monitored. I'll try to keep it on point without getting too far in the weeds here. As we can see, I'm currently logged into the go.rapidrecon.com/pro website. On the left is going to be where that workflow is at. The first meeting we have in implementation is the discovery meeting, which is where we set these steps up in your workflow to match your current process or your preferred process. This can always be changed at any point in time, but it helps to have a solid foundation to start from. Units are usually being imported into your Rapid Recon Pro system into here from a marketing source, but sometimes we have customers that opt to manually enter them as well. Either way, we can get them into the process. When units are brought into the system, they will have at least one landing step to start from, at least one ending step to archive out, like a frontline or a wholesale step. It is possible to set up a split import in some cases. We have some clients that have trades that end in a letter, so if there's a format difference in the stock number, maybe we have a separate fresh purchases and fresh trades import step, so we can split it if there's a format difference in the stock number. If there's other things like lease returns, rental returns, repos, things like that, we can always set up a split if there's a different format in the stock number or something else we can identify it by in the feed. All of the steps in between the starting and ending steps are meant to represent whatever workflow you want. It can be super condensed and simple, or a little more open and granular to better pinpoint those opportunities for improvement and help with a little more accountability and communication as a team. Some clients will even have pre-acquisition steps or post-marketing steps. So maybe I'm doing an appraisal and I want to make notes into this system. I can put it in the system beforehand. Or after the vehicle is sold, I want to process for cleanup for delivery and I want it in there. We can always set up steps outside of the main recon process as well. It's very versatile. Right? Some of your condensed systems will have maybe just a singular inspection step and repair step, maybe an advisor or somebody's managing it instead of bringing the team on board. All right. Your more inclusive and expanded workflows will have separate steps in the inspection for the advisor to open the repair order, dispatch, or maybe a foreman has a separate dispatch step. Used car techs will have their own steps. Parts counter will have their own quoting steps, ordering steps, holding steps, and things like that. This gives a little more visibility for everyone on where it's at in the recon process. It also feeds more data into the reports, and it helps the team stay connected with more automated communications that can be set up as the units go through the different steps. So the more expanded is probably the more common that we see into there. Right? In the workflow, you'll see that each one has a title step, right? So a main step, and then we have our sub steps underneath in there. All right? We call them parent steps and child steps. This helps to show what specific step of the process or section it's in, and at a glance, how many units are in the intake or inspection or whatever section it's in total. You can change both the main steps and the sub steps at any time, but you'll want to make sure to follow some simple rules that I'm going to go over here shortly. You're also going to see these 4 columns related to the color triggers over here. All right, so the green column means it's under the current time thresholds that you set up for that step. The yellow means it's past your initial expected goal set, and the red column means it's been there way too long and should catch everybody's attention. The 4th gray column will always show a total count of all units in that step regardless of its age. Up in the top right hand corner you see your initials, and if you are an administrator, you can always use this to get to the admin section, which is a separate tab that allows you to do multiple admin tasks, but I'm going to focus on the workflow settings in this video. So I click on that one, I go to admin. I've already got that window up over into here. All right, so if you're in a group, you'll have multiple stores to choose from on the left, so make sure you highlight the store that you want to change. All right, so we want to stick specific to that over here. So I'm going to go into my store that I'm in. Then you'll click the plugins. Okay. So when I click on the plugins, I'm going to see all these different ones. The pencil is only available in the Velocity Recon. That's what I'm going to click on there. Okay. And now over to the right, I'm going to see steps. Again, there's a lot of other settings, but this video is focused mainly on the settings for the workflow. So let's stick to that one. All right, so whether you use the plus button at the top to create a new step or edit an existing step, this is the area to change the settings of those steps. Okay, I'm not going to go over every part in detail for the sake of time and focus here. The name of the step is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, we can put that in there, identify it as a parent step or a secondary step. The category helps with reporting, so sometimes we put it in the right category to make sure it's going to feed the right report area. If it is a parent step, you don't have to worry about this, but if it's not a parent step and it's a child step or a sub-step, this is where you choose what you want to be the parent step that's in there. So if I go to fresh inventory, since incoming is a parent step, I'm going to show the parent step as incoming. Next step, we have those, what I call the easy buttons that are in there. I got that from Bobby, but if I look into here, I can see that button and click on it to push it to the next most common step in the process. Now, anybody can move it to any step at any point in time, doesn't have to go in a certain order and doesn't have to touch all the steps. But to create that big easy button where it most likely is going to go, this is where you choose that step in the next step. All right, you have your goal time and your warning time. Warning time is going to turn it yellow. Goal time is going to turn it red. And you can see it goes by hours and minutes. Okay, there's a max of 999 hours into here. All right, so for this step specifically, I have 1 day yellow and 2 days red. All right. Now your other one's down here, your ending step. So your ending step is selected. That time would be excluded from your time to line and average days in a recon. So essentially that is turning off the clock, so to speak. This is typically reserved for steps outside of recon altogether, like frontline, wholesale, loaner, demo, stop sale, WEO, so on and so forth. All right, if including reporting is checked, that one does feed your average days in a recon. So this would be for any controllable steps, which are typically your service, sublets, parts, detail, photos, and things like that. Anything considered a controllable. If forced completion of sold vehicles nightly is checked, then that will push units in this step to set archive overnight when it's no longer in the inventory. All right. Usually this is reserved for just frontline and wholesale. So keep in mind, any retail units need to end on the frontline step in order to calculate properly in your T2L and ADR numbers. Enhanced state tracking, this isn't used. This was the beginning of a tool that may or may not have gained certain functionality in the future. Right now, we're going to leave it unchecked. If you adjust the schedule, okay, that can turn off the step timers during certain times. I don't suggest doing that one. This is one that if you turn this on, it only runs during working hours. But keep in mind, we're trying to focus on the total time to line average days in a weekend. So holidays, weekends, if someone's out on vacation, the value is still diminishing. That holding cost is still there. So ideally, we want you to reflect on the real times, not necessarily turn the clocks off at certain times. But you do have that option. You have that schedule that you can set should it become feasible. Down here in the users section, if you have steps that you only want certain people to move that car out of that step, you can hit add user and choose specific users to move it in and out of. All right, so then you can limit who has access to move cars out of that step once it's in there. Maybe an approval step or something you want to set it up where only certain people can pull it out of there once it's pushed in. All right, if you don't feel comfortable changing the steps or would like some guidance, please reach out to support or your designated customer success manager. We can help wherever we can. All right, that concludes the training video. So I'm going to put this up on the screen as a reminder. Our support team is at support@rapidrecon.com, 650-322-0600. And of course, if you have a designated or assigned customer success manager, you can reach out to them directly as well. Thank you.